In this video, we're going to talk about how to make $10,000 a month from having conversations.
Yes.
It sounds crazy, but stick with me to the end and I'm going to explain exactly how. But before we get into how to do this, right? Because you're probably wondering, how can someone make 10K a month consistently from literally just having conversations, regular conversations? I want to ask you something. Think about the last few conversations that you had with business owners, right? With entrepreneurs, or even people trying to get something going, maybe an investor or one of your friends, right? Did any of them ever mention money? Maybe they said they needed funding. Maybe they talked about wanting to grow or expand. Maybe they mentioned being stuck because they didn't have enough capital or enough money to work with. So here's the real question. When you heard them say that, what did you do with it? I'll wait. All right, most people didn't do anything with that, right? They listen, they relate, maybe they give some advice, and then the conversation just simply moves on. But what if I told you that those exact conversations could be turned into real income? And you're not gonna do this by selling something to them or by convincing them to buy anything. But the way you're gonna do this is understanding that you have something that they need in that very moment and knowing how to respond to that, right? Knowing how to take advantage of that. That's what we're going to talk about here in this video. But before we get into that, if you like having real conversations about how money actually works, go ahead, comment, like, and subscribe for more free game that pays you. Now let's slow this down and really understand what's going on here. The first thing I want to talk about is why conversations are a lot more valuable than people think. Most people severely underestimate conversations. They think of them as just communication. They think of conversations as talking or catching up, or some people may say networking, right? But conversations are where information lives, and that information pays. Information tells you where opportunities are. Those opportunities pay. When someone tells you that they're stuck, right? They're giving you insight into their life. They're giving you insight into their problem. And when someone tells you that they need funding, they're showing you that there's a gap there, right? There's a bridge. When someone tells you that they can't grow because of money, they're pointing directly at a problem that you can solve. And the issue is not that the opportunity is not there, but the issue is that most people haven't been trained to recognize this. Until now, until you watch this video and this page where we talk about this all the time. They hear the words, but they don't connect it to value or to income. But once you start paying attention and realizing how often these conversations happen, you can start understanding how much money you can actually make off of this. So I'll give you an example. When a business owner says they need funding, right? They're not just making a statement. Or forget about a business owner. When a friend, right? When a friend or family member says, they're stuck, they need money, or they're trying to advance and do something or build a company, they're not just making a statement. They're describing a situation where there's already a solution available if you know how to access it. And there are funding teams, there are lenders, there are institutions whose entire business is providing the said thing that they need. So you have two sides, right? You have someone who needs money and someone who provides the money. Most people hear one side of that and they stop there. But when you understand how the system works, you see both sides at the same exact time. And that's exactly where your role comes in watching this video. You're not solving the problem yourself, but all you're doing is you're connecting that person to that said solution that's already there, and you're getting paid to do that. And how did this all start? This all started from having a conversation. So let's talk about how this turns into actual income in $10,000 a month. When you connect someone to a funding solution and they get approved, there's massive value created, right? That value is measurable by how much funding that they were able to get because money was moved, right? That transaction. And when money moves, there are fees and there are commissions involved. Funding companies are willing to pay for quality introduction. They want to lend so that they can make money off of their lending, but they don't necessarily want to have the conversations with every said person that needs capital. That's what you do, right? And once you're able to do that, all you have to do is send them to where they need to go. and they take it from there and you get paid for that. So when you consistently recognize these situations and you make the right connections, you're not having to rely on the volume of people that you talk to, but you're relying on the quality of the people that you talk to. And that's how a handful of conversations can turn into very meaningful income. Now, if you're listening to this and you're starting to realize you've had these conversations before, right? That's exactly why I built the Automotion Broker Society OnSchool, because most people don't lack opportunity, but they lack the structure behind that opportunity. So inside the school community, what you're getting is direct access to one of the highest producing financial and funding service teams in the entire United States. We have funded tens of millions of dollars for business owners and investors across the US, and we have relationships with hundreds of lenders across the country. So when you join the school, we teach you how to connect with someone, how to connect people. You're not doing any guessing. You're plugging them into a real system that knows how to get people approved and capital deployed, and you're getting paid, right? We teach you exactly how to do this, how to find these people, and how to do this business model. So if you want to take what you're already seeing and actually turn it into something structured, actually get paid, actually be able to make $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 a month doing this, join the school using the link below. Now let's go ahead and dive deeper into how to think about this. I think it starts with learning how to listen differently, okay? Once you understand kind of this business model, the way you listen changes. You're not just hearing people talk words, but you're identifying signals. You're paying attention more, right? You're paying attention to where someone is trying to go. You're paying attention to what's stopping them. You're paying attention to what they're actually missing. And you're starting to realize that a lot of these gaps come because of capital or the lack thereof, right? That's where most gaps come from. So at that point, you don't need to force anything. You don't need to have the perfect pitch. You just need to recognize when it makes sense to connect someone to the right place. That's a much more natural way to operate. So one of the biggest concerns that I want to address that people have with this model is whether it feels like selling. And in practice, it really doesn't, because you're not trying to convince someone to want something. A lot of business models out there, you have to either convince and or coerce somebody into buying something that you're selling, into buying something that you're offering. But when it comes to affiliate funding, they already want it. They've already expressed the need. Think of it as giving a bottle of water to someone that is already extremely thirsty. You're simply just the one that's helping them move forward. And that's a completely different interaction than selling. It feels more like guidance than persuasion. And that's why people are more open to this. So you might be thinking, okay, how can I scale something like this? Well, at first it might feel small, right? One conversation here, one opportunity there. That's how it's gonna feel in the beginning. But over time, you start to see patterns. You start to talk to the right people. You start to notice how often these situations come up when you insert yourself in rooms with business owners and investors. You build relationships with people who are constantly in these conversations. And now you're not relying on just these random moments, right? You're building consistent exposure to the opportunity. And that right there is where it starts to compound. And that's the situation that I'm currently in right now. I'm at the point to where I've had so many conversations with business owners and investors. I've talked to so many people that they now know exactly what it is that I offer. And so the work that I put in months ago from talking to these people, that's how I'm getting paid now. So I'm saying all that to say, most people are very close to the opportunity, but they just don't recognize it, right? A lot of you guys are having the conversations, they're hearing the problems, they're seeing the gaps, but they're not connecting the dots. And that's the whole point of this video, because once you understand what to look for, all of that changes and you realize that making $10,000 a month from doing this can be very simple, because now every single conversation has potential to get you paid. And once you understand that, you stop overlooking opportunities and you start acting on them.